Hello, if you want to watch exclusive lemon content on What If Naruto, then go to my Boosty. The first link in the description here contains such hot stories for adults, such as What If Naruto was a daddy for Sarada, or Kushina and Mikoto vulgar Naruto mommies. Follow the link and enjoy. I'm waiting for you.
Shouted Minato angrily, who ended up taking the last breaded shrimp from him. Don't you dare, Naruto mentioned, gritting his teeth. This will be very delicious, Minato commented, taking the shrimp to his mouth. That's mine, Naruto shouted, throwing himself on his father, who started running with the shrimp still in his possession. You still have many years to catch up with me, Minato said, using the Irisin no jutsu, which frustrated Naruto. At that moment, Kushina put her foot in him, and Minato fell to the ground, while the shrimp fell on Tayuya's plate, and she would ingest it without realizing it. This is all your fault, Tuzan Novaka, Naruto shouted, facing Minato. Don't yell at me like that, little boy, I'm your father, and I can do whatever I want, Minato mentioned, defying Naruto. You're just a gold pervert, Naruto shouted, throwing a punch at Minato, who ended up crashing into the wall in a funny pose, while the little blue Oji retreated from the place. Will Naruto-kun not eat anymore? Kushina asked her son. No, thank you, Karasan, my hunger is gone, Naruto replied, leaving to the kitchen. At that moment, Minato got up from something sore and sat down, looking a little sad and sighing. I think even hurting his own father won't put him in a good mood, Minato said with a sigh. Were you letting yourself get hurt on purpose? Her daughters asked in shock, while Minato smiled. Only on a few occasions, Minato replied. But why Otozan? Karen asked, looking at Minato. For Naruto, he replied. Whenever we fight, I am aware of the great fury that is charged, and that partly ends up being my fault. My intentions have always been for him to vent and get rid of those feelings, Minato explained. Minikin, you have a big heart, but you are a complete cow, his wife said, shaking her head. I know you want to help Naruchan, but I recommend you not to expose yourself so much anymore, like I told you, instead of helping him. You will only frustrate him more, advised Kushina. Narukin, Karen murmured, a little worried about what her father was mentioning. The night had come, and Naruto was back on the roof again, looking in the direction of the Yuga house. And Nachin, muttered the blonde. Flashback. After spending a month in the hospital, Naruto had finally been released after the hard fight he had against Sasuke Uchiha, who lost his life by using the maximum power of his Heaven's Seal, which forced his body to the limit, causing it to begin to deform, and then slowly, this before the pressure, caused a cardiac arrest that ended his life. Family and friends visited him often, as did his best friend Sakura and his dear girlfriend Hinata. But the strangest thing was that the day he left the hospital, they were not present waiting for him like everyone else. His mother was so happy to see him safe and sound that she had in mind to have a big party to celebrate that he was much better. That's a great idea, Kasan. I'll go get Ina-chan and Sakura-chan to let them know, the blonde said with a big smile as his mother nodded. Don't be long, Naru-chan asked his mother with a cute smile as the boy ran out in the direction of the house. His girlfriend's house, because it was closer to the hospital. Once Naruto arrived at Inata's house, he was greeted by the little girl, and it would be Anabi who smiled slightly when she saw him. Since she liked the boy quite a lot, not to say that she had a lot of appreciation and affection for him. Anab told her that her sister was in her room talking with Aruno-san, something that made the blonde happy, because it made him very happy that his girlfriend and her best friend will get along too. The boy went up the stairs and, once in front of the door, he stopped when he heard them talking. I can't do it, Inata. Naruto is my best friend, my feelings would only hurt him more. Besides, I was the one who helped them to be together, Sakura said with a sad charm. Something that the blonde noticed through the door that was ajar, and he could see both girls sitting on the bed. But, Sakura-san, me, Inata said, somewhat worried. Don't insist, Inata, I can't. I don't want to hurt you. You are very important to me, and even if my heart breaks to see the person I love with someone else, I don't. At that moment, Naruto and Sakura were shocked, while Naruto's heart was shattered with what he looked at, and Nata, his Inata. I was kissing Sakura in her mouth, while this one was pushing her, and cream. He exclaimed with a red face. Sakura-chan, please. Me. I just want to be close to you, I know it sounds cruel, but I only have eyes for you. Naruto-kun is someone very special to me, but I realized that I only have him. Brothers love me. I love you, Sakura-chan, Hinata said, surprising Sakura. No, I can't, Hinata. Naruto is my best friend, not me. He mentioned Sakura. Please, Sakura-chan. Please, Hinata asked as she slowly approached Sakura, who was bewitched by Hinata. And na taken, Sakura said that she ended up being kissed again by Hinata at the moment when that kiss corresponded. At that moment, the door of the room was opened by a false movement given by Naruto when trying to retreat. And both girls saw the blonde. With teary eyes. Naruto, they both said at the same time. So that's why they didn't come to see me today, that I went out, the poor blonde mentioned with a voice that showed that he was broken. I Naruto, Sakura said, but the blonde interrupted her. I hope they will be happy, he said. The blonde guy who ended up leaving them alone. Naruto is waiting. Sakura shouted that she tried to reach her friend, but before she could reach him, he used a shunsin and disappeared, leaving Sakura with a raised hand. End of the flashback. Naruto was shedding tears, tears that the wind took away, and which ended up coming in as a breeze through one of the house sails. These came in through Karen's window, who was reading at her desk, and these ended up falling into her book. Karen, surprised by this, stuck her head out of the window and managed to look at Naruto again on the ceiling. Naruto, Karen murmured worriedly. Have you seen Ototo Novaka today? Tayuya asked, opening the door and looking at Karen with her head down. Karen, I'm talking to you, said Tayuya, who noticed his younger sister's look. She's upstairs, Karen replied with a sad look and a worried voice. He is still very affected, replied the one with glasses, looking at her sister. I know, Tayuya replied. I remember that we had to take care of him for 2 days in which we both slept with him, to prevent him from doing some kind of crazy thing. Flashback. Naruto had arrived home shattered with what his eyes had seen and his ears listened. Naruto-kun, where is that cute little girl who is your girlfriend and Sakura-chan? Kusina asked, getting the blonde to stop. They're both busy, Kasen. If you don't mind, I'm not in the mood for a celebration, the boy mentioned without even turning around to look at his mother. Naruto-kun. Kusina called, but he just walked up the stairs, leaving a small trail of tears that immediately Tayuya and Karen noticed. They both looked at each other and ran for the guy. The pair of redheads came to their brother's room. Once they entered this one, they saw the boy sitting, turning his back to them, and with his head down, while sobbing instead. They slowly approached him, while Karen sat on his right and Tayuya on his left. Naru-chan, are you okay? Karen asked, very worried about the boy. Sniffies, yes, the boy lied. What was it that happened? Tayuya asked with a serious tone of voice. Nothing, the boy said without wanting to speak. Naruto-kun, we are your Wanshin, you can trust us, Karen said, hugging the boy who kept sobbing. And Cream, mentioned the blonde. What about Ina-chan? Karen asked while hugging the boy, trying to comfort him. The blonde did not want to answer. Oh Toto no Vaka, get up and look at me, Tayuya ordered, while the blonde looked at her with his eyes dripping in tears. You're not going to cry because your little girlfriend cheated on you with an idiot, Tayuya said, guessing the situation. Right now you and I are going to go find that bastard, and you are going to break his jaw madly, Tayuya said, crossing her arms. And looking fiercely at her little brother. I can't, the blonde said, so that Tayuya would get upset and take him by the collar of his t-shirt while he averted his gaze. Don't tell me you can't, because I'm going to hit you myself, the redhead shouted angrily when she saw how stupid she was behaving to Naruto. Tayuya. Karen shouted angrily at her sister's behavior to be so insensitive to the issue. Naruto, are you going to go hit the bastard, or will I have to hit you? Tayuya asked in a threatening way. I can't do it, because I'm not going to hit Sakura. Naruto shouted, causing Karen to put her hand to her mouth for knowing such a strong truth. And Tayuya just let go because he did not expect that answer. Or maybe them. Karen asked. When I looked for them and Nada told her that he loved her, the blonde revealed, and then they kissed, he said helplessly as the tears fell. Karen quickly imprisoned Naruto in her arms protectively. Now she understood why he had not beaten his ex-girlfriend's lover, while Tayuya furiously clenched his fists. Those bastards, she mentioned angrily, and willing to look for them. Tayuya, where are you going? Karen asked, looking at her older sister. Where else will I look for those to give them the beating of their life? No one hurts my family, and if Naruto didn't do anything to them, that doesn't stop me from doing it, the redhead replied. Major. Tayuya, the blonde guy called, making his sister see him. Please don't do it, the blonde asked. I'm not going to do that. Those bastards are not going to leave you hurt, Tayuya shouted looking at the blonde. I've never asked you for anything, Wanzan, please. Only just this time, asked the blonde who had his head pressed to the chest of Karen who was still hugging him. Tayuya sighed in frustration and returned to the blonde's side, sitting down with folded arms and a displeased expression. Thank you, said the blonde. Thank you for not leaving me alone, said the blonde. Naruto-kun, you will never be alone. Otozan, Okazen, Tayuya and I are with you. We will never leave you, Ototo. Karen said, kissing Naruto's head. Naruto, remember that you can always count on us. We are your Wanzan. We will always be there to take care of you. Tayuya said, stirring the boy's hair. End of the flashback. Tayuya, we must do something, Karen said, very worried about Naruto. Karen, we have already done everything possible that was in our hands. We can't do any more for him, Tayuya said with some sadness. That's not entirely true, Tayuya. Karen said that it seemed that something had occurred to her and firmed the color of her cheeks. Tayuya guessed what she was going to say. No, the older redhead replied. I'm not going to seduce Ototo Novaka, Tayuya replied with a flushed face. And entering into a total denial, while her heart was racing. Well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it, Karen said with determination. As an extra brightness prevented her eyes from seeing each other. Are you crazy? How can it even cross your mind and try to seduce Naruto? Tayuya asked him very angrily. He is our younger brother. Tayuya, Naruto-kun is the last man of our clans, and he will be obliged by the council to marry several girls. What better girls than their sisters, the girl said with a big smile. I once heard Kasen saying that there was a possibility that Naruto-kun would be betrothed to one of us so that an Uzumaki blood baby, Namikaze, would be born, Karen replied. I keep saying this is the worst one of all your stupid ideas, Tayuya said, taking his hand to his face at such madness, but inside the idea did not displease him so much. Well, I don't know about you, but I will do anything for Naruto-kun. He doesn't deserve what he had to live. Our Ototo deserves to be happy, so with or without your help, I will make Naruto-kun happy, said Karen, walking in the direction of the door. Where are you going? Tayuya asked. With our parents, I will go and tell them what I think, and that I want to be together with Naruto-kun, Karen said. Well, I don't want to miss this, Tayuya said, taking her arms behind her head and following her sister. The pair of sisters arrived at their parents' room. Karen knocked on the door, and they heard a pass, then slowly opened the door to find her mother wearing a pink robe, while combing her long hair. And her father in bed, reading for the 31st time the first. A book published by Jiraiya. Karen, Tayuya, what's going on? Minato asked, taking off his reading glasses and looking at his daughters. The Sukubu wants to tell you something, Tayuya mentioned, pushed to his sister, who shot him a death look. And Mi-chan, Minato said, making the girl with glasses look at him. Otto-chan, she said in a shy way, you see, I heard Tioka-chan talking about a topic a little while ago, Karen mentioned a little nervously. Like this. And what were they? Minato asked with some interest, looking at Karen. Well, it may sound indecent to many, but he paused, averting his gaze. I want to become Naruto-kun's fiancée, Karen said, looking at her father, who was looking incredulously at his daughter. While Kasina, who was listening intently, had stopped brushing her hair. And Mi-chan, that's a very serious thing. Are you sure about what you're saying? Minato asked him. Cool, Karen replied, looking at her father. Or Toto-chan is in a lot of pain, and I want to help him overcome that pain, Karen said. What do you think, Minikin? Kasina asked, looking at her husband very thoughtfully. Karen, Minato spoke, calling her by name. Come, sit down, the man asked, pointing to a corner of the bed as his daughter obeyed. Karen. Are you sure your feelings for your brother are that kind of love? Minato asked. Otto-chan, I love Naruto-kun very much, and it hurts me to see him in that state. I'm sure I can help him. I am the one to stop suffering, said Kari, looking at her father, who smiled, moved by the words his daughter said, and then put his hand in his head. Well, I'm-chan, I'll give you permission to woo Naruto. Kasina-chan, you have something to say. Minato asked his wife. I've noticed how much both of you love Naru-chan, Kasina said with a smile. Taya-chan, are you interested in courting Naruto-kun? Kasina asked, watching as her eldest daughter turned completely red at such a question. And me and Nin interested, the girl said in shock. You should try, daughter, Kusina encouraged with a smile. Tayuya, we won't pressure you to anything, but if you want to take a chance with Naruto you can do it, we don't see any problem. After all, who can give him as much love as his own sisters? Minato said smiling. I will think about it, he replied turning his back to them. Well daughters, I wish you a lot of luck in courting your brother, said Kusina standing up and hugging her firstborn. Rest girls, said Kusina as Karen got out of bed, not before giving a kiss on the cheek to her father in sense of gratitude, and then hug his mother and kiss her on the cheek just the same. It's a big surprise that they decided to take the initiative, Minato said looking at his wife getting into bed. That's right, I thought we should have told you about this in 3 more years, when Naruto-kun was about to turn 18, Kusina said. Well, at least I can be sure that Karen managed to get Naruto to get better, Minato mentioned with a smile. While Kusina frowned in disagreement. Let me contradict you dear, but Karen-chan has no chance against Taiyu-chan, said Kusina proud of Tayuya. What do you mean? Minato asked. It's obvious, Naruto-kun will choose Taiyu-chan first, Kusina said with a smile. They are both very close, and I see him always next to her, Kusina revealed. Well, I think Im-chan will be the first. She is very loving and thoughtful with Naruto. I don't think our son can resist Kareem's charms and seduction, so he won the Kunoichi of the year, thanks to his seduction skills. Minato mentioned proudly of his daughter. Hey Mina-kun, if you're so sure that Kareem-chan be the first, why not a bet? Kusina asked with a mischievous look. What do you have in mind? Minato asked. Look, if Naruto-kun loses his virginity to Taiyu-chan, you should do everything I say, and that involves doing everything. The woman mentioned with a mischievous smile that caused a strong chill to Minato. Okay, but if Karen-chan wins, you and 4 other Kajabunsen of yours will fulfill all my whims, and that includes sensual dances, dressing up in corn and other things more, Minato mentioned while Kusina accepted, because what her husband asked was not so strong. Like what she was going to ask him if he lost. But, let's make something very clear, sweetie, Kusina said, if one of us sabotages our girl's rival, he will lose automatically. Kusina said as Minato accepted, and sealed the deal with a passionate kiss on his wife's lips. Karen's room. It's already done me, I'll have the opportunity to make Naruto-kun fall in love, Karen said, to then run to her closet. And start taking out endless amount of clothes, while trying them on in front of the mirror. What can I wear? Karen asked very nervously. Something that had never happened to her. I used this one yesterday, he said. Throwing the skirt, he is very old, he mentioned throwing a black short. These are really ugly, Karen said tossing a pair of black pants. I've never been so nervous in my life, the redhead said, and then dropped down on her bed to look at the ceiling. But you're pretty enough already. He is wearing any kind of clothes, he recalled his brother's words with a smile. Naruto-kun, my Naruken, mentioned the girl with a nice smile when she saw a photograph where a 5-year-old Naruto and a 7-year-old Karen were hugging and very happy, while Tayuya was crossing her arms and turning her face away. Tayuya's room. The girl was leaning on one of her walls, still with her mother's question rumbling in her head. Courting Ototo Novaka, said the redhead with her eyes on the ground, it's not right, I shouldn't do it. But every time he mentioned the redhead, while various images came to his head, every time he hugged her, that he smiled at her or. He said she was a pretty girl. She had a strange feeling in her chest, and her heart was racing for no reason. Am I falling in love with Ototo Novaka? He said. The redhead asked herself, the moment a look of worry and fear appeared on her face. Slowly, she walked to a full-length mirror and stood in front of it, to take a deep look at herself. Would your friend like to see you more feminine? It was then that he remembered several girls who seemed to call Naruto's waiting room. Karen was one of them. Because I always take great care of him. And Naruto told her that she was very pretty, and that when modeling clothes any garment would fit her perfectly. Her face saddened a little, but then she remembered the other 2 girls that her brother said were very pretty. Sakura and Jimata, thinking about their names, couldn't help but smile as she remembered what he made them when they were found weeks after the incident. Flashback. Tayuya was walking quietly through the village. It was a boring day, not to mention that he had nothing to do or some mission. Due to the recent events, the Chunin exams, Suna and Otto's attack, the death match. From Naruto and Sasuke, a lot of things have happened. Maybe I'll buy ramen from Ototo Novaka. I hope something like that will cheer him up at least a little, she said to herself. Heading to the Ichiraku's ramen. Tayuya-san? She heard a scream behind her, which made her jump up and from her after clenching her fists. Hi Tayuya-san. Sakura greeted standing next to her. Aruno, I'm not the best company right now, he replied without looking her in the eye. But Tayuya-san heard another voice that made her clench her fists harder, leading them to bleed from her nails that they had pierced. His skin. Tell me what it is you want, and get out, Tayuya ordered with a cold tone that surprised the girls. Well, I just need your help, Sakura said in a muffled voice. My help? Who does this one think she is? She thought angrily. We want to talk to Naru. Before Hinata could have finished the sentence, Tayuya had hit her stomach hard, making her fall to her knees while taking her belly. And Mata-chan? Sakura cried out with concern as she bent down to help her friend. Why did you do that? You didn't have to. Before Sakura said anything, Tayuya threw a punch at her face that knocked her down. Sakura's right cheek was completely swollen. And it hurt a lot. She slowly raised her gaze and noticed that Tayuya was being taken away by the Shinigami because of how angry she was. All right, little bitches, listen to me carefully in my house. He's a broken kid because they were never honest with him. So now I am going to warn you that if you came to look for him, talk to him or look at him, you would wish that the pain of those blows is the only thing you are going to feel, because there will be no place to hide from my fury. If Naruto gets worse, Tayuya sentenced, leaving Hinata with tears in her eyes and Sakura very scared. You can't forbid us such a thing, Sakura said painfully. Then put me to the test, Tayuya said to leave them in place after threatening them. End of the flashback. I don't want, and I won't let Naruto get hurt again by me. Tayuya looked at the mirror with determination, while with his right hand he took something pointed. The next morning, Namikaze Uzumaki family house, 100 a.m. Minato was in the living room of the house reading the newspaper. Thanks to Kami, he no longer had to do that hateful paperwork, because that was the job of the Godame, who almost killed him for subjecting her to such a boring position. So the killer has 2 more victims, and both girls were reading Minato with interest. What murder? Kusina asked, snatching the newspaper from Minato. Kusina was reading the newspaper carefully, and then she saw Minato with a pout that left her husband confused, and blurted out a tremendous joke that would embarrass Tsunade Senju herself. Ouch, he complained, getting up with the swelling in his head. Can it be known why you hit me, dear? Minato asked. I thought you were reading something serious, Minato Namikaze, not the review of Yuki Fujikaze's new movie, the woman said, with his hands on his hips. Hey, the news of Yuki Fujikaze's movies is something important to me, Minato replied, making Kusina feel a little jealous, and threw the newspaper in her face. Well, stay with your girlfriend. I hope she will make you breakfast, the woman mentioned, leaving the living room. Wait, love, don't get angry, Minato shouted, running after Kusina. Naruto's room. The blonde got up from his bed and slowly got out of it, revealing that he was only wearing black shorts, and his chest was completely bandaged. He walked in the direction of a chair where he grabbed a black call-sleeve t-shirt and covered her chest. Then she left her room and walked in the direction of the bathroom. For some strange reason, this one was somewhat damp, but he decided not to pay attention to it and went to the sink, where he started rinsing his face to try to wake up. With his eyes closed, I tried to find a towel, but the blonde guy found something that wasn't exactly a towel. It seems that Kasen left the hot water bottle on the towel rack again, the blonde man said with a sigh. Because it was very common for his mother, after bathing at night, to fill a bag to take off the cold of the night. The guy squeezed the bag a little, but this reaction in a strange way. Kier was heard in the bathroom, which forced Naruto to open his eyes and realized that his hand was squeezing one of the breasts of his sister Karen, who was somewhat embarrassed by the situation. Nanarukan, I mentioned with a red face, while the blonde one just whipped against the ground, with his mouth open and his eyes completely white from the shock. Then to Naruto-kun. Karina cried out, worried, pressing her brother between her chest and arms. The blonde began to wake up after 6 minutes. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was his sister, still naked, who was looking at him with a worried face. Ka Karen me, said the blonde with red cheeks, not to say that he was trying to keep a certain area of his body from waking up. "Naruto-kun, are you okay?" Karen asked, looking at the blonde. "I that one, yes," said the boy, averting his gaze. "Nissen, could you allow me to withdraw?" "So you can get dressed," the boy said. "Naruto, do you like my body?" Karen asked the blonde, surprised. "So what?" asked the boy, forgetting the fact that he was completely alone with his older sister in the bathroom. "Yeah, I mean me, I'm a pretty face," the redhead asked. "Nissen, I don't understand what you want to tell me," said the blonde, making Karen sigh sadly. "Naruto, I mean, what do you think about me?" Karen asked. "I'm not asking you to answer me as your sister. I want to know what you think about me," she asked, making a small pause that stole Naruto's attention. As a girl, Karen revealed, leaving Naruto completely red. Me, well," the boy commented very nervously. "Well, I consider you someone very pretty," he said with pity. "You are a nice and very loving person," the boy said, averting his gaze a little. "That's why, you're very special to my Karen," Naruto said a little nervously. "Naruto-kun," called the redhead, "could you look at me?" "Please," Karen asked, causing Naruto to slowly look at her and be shocked. "Nissen," the blonde thought, completely in shock, as he felt how his sister's lips were glued to his. Slowly, the redhead parted her lips as she pressed her forehead to the blonde's and smiled at him in a shy way. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," thanked the girl with great happiness reflected in a small and shy smile. "Naruto-kun, I don't know how you come to take this, but I love you," he said. The girl, leaving the blonde somewhat confused. "I love you too, Nissen," the blonde replied, but Karen quickly shook her head. "I'm not talking about brotherly love, Naruto-kun. I've been having feelings for you for a long time, and I like you a lot," the red-eyed girl revealed. "Nissen," Naruto muttered. "I know it's hard to understand, and I'm sure it's almost impossible for you to accept me for your recent breakup," Karen explained as small tears flowed from her eyes. "I just want you to know that no matter anything, I am your Nissen, and I will always love you," Karen said with her. Her hands rested on the shoulders of Naruto, who ended up hugging the girl, who began to cry on her brother's chest. Thinking about the future rejection she would suffer, Naruto was silent and didn't say anything for about several minutes, while still sitting on the floor, with Karen clinging to his chest and sobbing. "I didn't know how, but now I understood things very well. His sister was always trying to seduce him many times, sometimes perversely and sometimes with cute actions." The boy lowered his head, and, as she always did, decided to imitate her. Naruto kissed his sister's head, who was shocked at the action of the boy. "I'll think about it, Karen. Just give me a little time to assimilate it," the blonde asked, granting great happiness to his sister, who had her heart beating fast. Naruto-kun called his brother Karen, who turned to see her and ended up being kissed on the lips again. But this time it's not was in shock. "Why was that?" Naruto asked, looking at his sister, who was smiling at him with a nice blush on her cheeks. "By your sincerity and kindness, moreover, I want to prove to you that my words are not a lie, and that I really love you, my dear Ototo," Karen said, stroking his cheek and giving him another kiss. "Fast on the lips, besides," he said with a smile that Naruto quickly knew how to identify. It was a smile of lust. "It seems that someone is happy to have me around," Karen said, slowly passing her hand in an area that shook Naruto. "I'll let you get dressed," the blonde said, walking out at speed and without, leaving Karen with a smile on her face. "Naruto-kun, you're not going to regret it," the girl mentioned, standing up to start getting dressed. Naruto walked into his room. He was breathing heavily, and then he looked down, noticing a huge bulge in his pants that he just did to get depressed. "I just got turned on by my own sister," Naruto said, dropping his head with depression. "Okay, relax. This can't be that bad. I just have to stay in the room until this goes down. I can make it," Naruto said determinedly. "Breakfast is ready," Kasina shouted to her children. A scent came to Naruto that he would recognize anywhere. He quickly turned his eyes to a calendar with the image of Mei Shiranui posing in a red bathing suit, and then noticed the date. "No!" Naruto shouted in terror with his eyes rolling, "because this has to happen precisely on Bacon Day." The boy shouted. "Just thinking about those juicy, somewhat salty strips of meat made my mouth water. I didn't know how. But I had to go down no matter the circumstances. It was Bacon Day. Bacon Day was only once a month. The blonde guy came out of his room looking for both sides, and noticing that no one was there, she got out and ran as fast as possible until she reached the kitchen and sat down next to her mother, who was olympically ignoring Minato, while he was begging her for more strips of bacon, as I only had one and the smallest one. In front of Naruto was Karen, who was smiling at her brother, hand, making him a little blushing, and next to the blonde young man was Tayuya's empty chair. It seems that Taichan still doesn't come down, Kusina said looking at her daughter's empty chair. Here I am, Tayuya said with a shy voice. Once everyone looked up, they were shocked to see the young woman, who had a little red cheeks. Is Taichan here? Kusina asked looking at her daughter, averting her gaze. You look gorgeous, the woman said looking at the change of style in her daughter. I agree with your Okusan, Tayuya, you really look very beautiful, Minato said admiring his daughter. What do you think, Naruto? Minato asked looking at his son in shock. Beautiful, pronounced the blonde looking at his sister, who blushed a little when she heard her brother. Tayuya had grabbed a sharp object the night before. This was a crib, and with which he cut his hair to leave it at the height of his neck. The girl has 2 long strands of hair that framed her face. Her clothes consist of something different from the black she always wears. She's now wearing a yellow tank top that perfectly outlined her C-cup breasts and tiny waist. She is wearing a blue schoolgirl-style mini skirt and long stockings that end up over her roses, which have horizontal lines of blue and white. Their sandals are blue, and on their arms there is a kind of mesh that covers their wrists and forearms. Thank you, Naruto, the girl said with pity, while Naruto felt weird hearing Tayuya calling his name. Tayuya walked to his seat next to Naruto and moderately helped himself to his food, something not very common then. Flashback. Bacon day, Kusina shouted with joy. At that moment Tayuya would take half of the bacon strips and serve them on his plate, so that after 20 seconds, the plate would be empty. And that's when he started stealing bacon from his brothers and his parents. Tayuya? The family members shouted, seeing the empty bacon tray, and then seeing how the girl got up without saying anything, but with a big smile on her face. End of the flashback. All right, who are you, and what did you do with the tomboy Darket? Karen asked accusingly, pointing to her sister, who was looking confused at the girl with glasses. What are you talking about, Karen-chan? Tayuya asked looking at Karen, leaving her whole family with their mouths on the floor, because whenever Karen called her that way, they both started. They were having a little bit of an insult fight. Taichan, are you feeling well? Kusina asked looking at her daughter. Of course I do, Okasama, I feel really good, she replied with a cute smile. Daughter, is this why we talked last night? Minato asked. Yes, Otosama, but I also realized that my attitude, I wasn't the right one, so from now on I'll be a new Tayuya, the brown-eyed redhead said optimistically. I don't accept it. No, 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 I love my sister, the wild one who insults me when I do it. If there are 2 cute girls in the house, do not exitar to Balin of any, no and no, complained Karen to then take violently by the shoulders to Tayuya, insult me, come on, I know that you want, I will help you. Karen is a sir, the girl mentioned, waiting for Tayuya to complete the sentence. Finish the fucking sentence, Karen shouted violently, moving by the shoulders to Tayuya, who had a huge stinging vein on his forehead, but had managed to control himself. Don't worry, little sister, you're wrinkling my clothes, Tayuya said, carefully pushing Karen away. I know, here, said Karen, offering her the things from her plate. Eat them, said the redhead with glasses, offering her her share of the food. Tayuya had to suppress her great cravings for bacon, especially since Bacon Day was the day she looked forward to every month. Since her mother bought from packages that she had to prepare that big day. Her stomach growled as she looked at the amount Karen had, certainly higher than the portion she had on her plate. But using her great willpower and her pride, she left impressed. Everyone. I thank you for the gesture, Karinimoto, but I will only eat what is due to me, Tayuya replied with a nervous smile. The breakfast passed uncomfortably but quietly. Once they finished eating, Tayuya took everyone's dishes and washed them. Her parents were very worried. It is supposed that doing household chores was what Tayuya considered completely stupid and irrelevant. But if there was something that she hated more than anything, it was being put to wash the dirty dishes, and right now he did it with a smile on his face. Why the fuck am I doing this? Tayuya thought with a small blush on her face, because she could feel Naruto's gaze on her. Naruto, stop looking at me, Already dressing like this is too embarrassing, the redhead mentally begged, as she cleaned up faster. To get out of her younger brother's sight. Minikin, this has me really scared. I didn't think Tayachin was going to have this crazy radical change, she whispers to her husband. Tratmila, you already heard from her that she plans to mature and leave her aggressive side. For me, this is a refreshing change, Minato said, smiling that his daughter no longer called him with so little lack of. I respect as I did when I called him Otuzan Novaka or he was Otuzan. Mina-kun, I'm telling you, this is not right at all. Tayachin should be herself, and not another girl she invented to make Naruto-kun fall in love. The older redhead whispered to her husband. In that I give you the reason, because at some point she will get tired of pretending. This new facet, responded Minato, analyzing the situation of his eldest daughter. So Wan-chan wants to play, huh? Karen thought with a huge smile on her face. Such a submissive change can be very beneficial. It seems that she is ready to make Naruto-kun fall in love, but when she least expects it, hey, she will be there. The three of them practicing the Icha and Chapparatus with everything and comments, Karen thought with a perverted smile. Taiyuyan is very strange, she thought with an analytical look about her sister. I hope nothing happened to her, since she's not one to act like that, unless Naruto thought a little until he found an answer. Answer, that's right, Taiyan is Anesta in love, concluded the blonde. Well, I hope that guy makes her happy because if that bastard dares to hurt her, there will be no place for her to hide from me. Naruto thought with an annoyed look. Once Tayuya finished cleaning the dishes, he turned to see Naruto and realized that the boy was leaving the dining room. She had to come up with a plan if she wanted Naruto to notice her, so she walked to where he was. And before he took off his shirt to start his training, Tayuya took him by the arm and he pulled where they were out of sight. Tayachin, a Karen-chan zero commented derisively. Lona Kasina to her husband who just crossed his arms. Taiwaya had taken a confused Naruto to the back of her house where they could be alone and uninterrupted. That's when Naruto noticed how nervous his sister was. Taiyuyan, are you okay? Naruto asked. Naruto, I know this will sound weird, but she said a little indecisively and averting her gaze. I would like you to accompany me to some places I was planning to go, and mentioned Tayuya who was interrupted by a perverted laugh. When they looked up, they saw only a bush with white leaves. Rich millionaire, this will make me more famous among the girls, said a dreamy voice. Naruto and Tayuya jumped towards the bush, and this bush when they saw them in front of it got a little scared. Because now he was trembling when he saw the most violent daughter of his student, who picked up the notebook to read what he was saying. Tayuya, don't kill me, I was always like a grandfather to you, he said. Said the man, making several bows while imitating a technique known as the fallen tiger. You should improve the letter Jiraiya-sama, and passion has an accent on the O, said the redhead. Leaving the man and Naruto in shock, because usually whenever he met the Sennin, he ended up in the hospital with traumas. Psychological. Aren't you going to hit me? The unbelieving albino asked him. I have no reason to do it, Tayuya replied as if nothing happened, to end up being hugged in a surprising way by Jiraiya. Thank you my cute girl, from now on you will be my favorite granddaughter. You can count on Grandpa Jiraiya for whatever you need. Said crying the Zenin comically while clinging to the waist of the girl who had a huge stinging bee. Because I can never stand that her personal space was invaded without her consent. Yes, thank you Jiraiya-sama replied starting to get upset. Calm down, Naruto-kun this person. Present and we can't get out of the role of a good girl, thought the frustrated girl, Jiraiya-sama, if you don't mind. I have business to attend to with Naruto, the girl said with her eyes closed. And with intentions of seeking tranquility in the face of such an uncomfortable situation. Of course I do, Tayuya replied Jiraiya with a smile. By the way, is your father there? Jiraiya asked. Yes, he might be studying ancient scrolls in his office right now, Tayuya replied. Thank you, daughter, Jiraiya replied with a smile. By the way, you look beautiful in those clothes, I like your change, the old man complimented. Making Tayuya feel sorry to hear that she was praised in the company of Naruto. Once the old man got off the roof, only Naruto and Tayuya were left on this one. The redhead walked away from her brother and sat on a corner of the ceiling with her feet dangling. Naruto followed her and sat next to her in complete silence, waiting for her to speak, but that was far from happening. They both stayed in complete silence for about 40 minutes, and Naruto was beginning to despair. Because he had never in his life been waiting for so long in Silsio, but what he didn't know is that Tayuya was somehow terrified of not having a topic to talk to him about, to her bad luck, he began to avarice her and take her out of his world. Taian, what's going on? Naruto asked, looking at his sister. I'm fine because you pre-question it. She questioned a little nervously. Well, more than anything, this change, Naruto said. You don't like it, do you? She asked, a little disappointed, because after all, she had tried very hard to look more feminine and pretty. Well, you really look very pretty, said the blonde, averting his gaze, causing Tayuya to blush. Thank you, the girl replied, hiding her face, because every word Naruto said to her ended up making her nervous and blushing, something she couldn't understand. I hope he notices, the blonde commented, surprising his sister. Thought the girl with sunken, what do you mean? He asked, looking at his younger brother. Well, I thought that your change is because of a guy you met, Naruto replied. Huh? She exclaimed in confusion. To tell the truth, it will take a lot of work to get used to you having a boyfriend, the blonde said, making Tayuya go into shock. He thinks that Tayuya thought in shock when I realized what Naruto was thinking. But I guess I can try to get along with him. I just want you to know that if he does something perverted to you or hurts you. The blonde said, pausing, I will hurt him, he sentenced with a murderous look and a macabre Tayuya-style voice. If you're a moron, he muttered, clenching his fists as a lump formed in his throat. Did you say something? Naruto asked, looking in the direction of his sister. How the fuck do you think I'm gonna fixate on another man? My heart already has an owner, the girl cried, upset, surprising the blonde. I made this change for you so that you would see me as pretty, feminine, as well as the stupid lesbians who hurt you, she sentenced. Lita, the girl? Tayuya Nizan, you too. Naruto thought as he listened to his sister. Tayuya took one of Naruto's hands and ran away in the middle of her breasts. Naruto quickly blushed, but began to feel something that greatly astonished him. You're the one to blame for this, the girl said, frustrated and gritting her teeth as her tears came down. This happens to me every time you look at me, every time you're gentle with me, every time you tell me I'm pretty. My heart goes crazy all because of you. The girl screamed, looking at her brother. Wait, I'm that? Naruto asked in shock at the revelation. I've been trying to do various things for more than 4 years, but I can't, this feeling won't go away. And no matter how much I try to ignore it, it's impossible for me, Tayuya said, speaking in a depressed voice. Taian, said the blonde, hugging in a surprising way to his sister, excuse me please. I never realized how you felt, if I could do something to. He mentioned the blonde guy who ended up being pushed by his sister, making him fall on his back. And the blonde guy complained to you about the impact of his body against the ceiling. Taian, why did you do that? Before he could finish the sentence, Tayuya had lunged at him and had caught the lips of his Ototo and kissed them with a lot of passion, while Naruto unconsciously started to return the kiss to his sister. Slowly Tayuya cut off the kiss and leaned his head on his brother's chest. At the moment his face reflected some shame. But for some reason he couldn't help but feel happy. At that moment, Naruto's arms wrapped around her in an embrace that strangely made her feel protected. Are you feeling better, Taian? Naruto asked his sister, who only limited herself to feeling. I am now, Naruto, said the redhead, thanks for not rejecting me, the redhead mentioned, leaning her head back on Naruto's chest. Naruto felt a strange shudder all over his body when his sister called him by his name and not as Ototo Novaka. At that moment, the blonde began to think about the words that Tayuya had said to him the day before. Flashback. Naruto, there are a lot of girls out there, and Nara is not the only girl in all of Konoha, the redhead mentioned. End of the flashback. Naruto's heart was beating a little faster than normal, and Tayuya could hear it perfectly. Taian, the blonde man called, trying to get up a little, making Tayuya sit on his lap and look Naruto in his eyes. Are you serious about what you told me? Naruto asked, did I cause all that in you? Naruto asked, looking at his sister. Don't make me repeat those words, they are very embarrassing, the redhead said, avoiding her gaze, but Naruto took her by her chin and gave her a small kiss that surprised her, but to which she ended up corresponding. Taian, you look very beautiful today, but, said the blonde, stroking his sister's short hair. I'll grow that hair after all, she mentioned, a little embarrassed. What I mean is you didn't have to do things like this. I admit that you look gorgeous today, but you've always been a very cute girl. No matter what your appearance or your attitude is, Naruto said, surprising Tayuya. So you don't mind if I get to be the same again? his sister asked him. Not at all, to tell the truth. I like you more being rude and violent, said the blonde, smiling at Tayuya, who blushed suddenly, to then catch something that made her clench her fists. So you just told me lies, said the girl, raising her face, while some strands covered her right eye and she looked at herself a serious look. That promised a lot of pain. Taeyeon, said the frightened blonde. You said you prefer violet to my tender side, didn't you? Tayuya asked him in a gloomy voice. That means that it's lies that I look cute right now just to look more feminine, the girl mentioned, overflowing a lot of killer instinct. Do you know how much I had to hold back of acting like this for you to ruin a beautiful moment in between? The girl asked with her only visible eye glowing crimson red. Wait for the Necha-on. The blonde man shouted in terror when he saw how Tayuya was following him around the roofs of the house with murderous intentions. Come back here if you're a man. Tayuya shouted, I swear that when I reach you I will cut off your little friend and bury her up your ass. The redhead screamed angrily as a big smile appeared on her face. Thank you, Naruto-kun, thought the very happy girl, who decided to play a little with her ototo. Inside the house. It seems that Taichan recovered, Kusina commented with a smile, as she advanced towards Minato and Jiraiya, who were in the room. While Naruto and Tayuya's screams could be heard all over the place. Then I guess they already got the news, Jiraiya asked, taking the serving cup, ready to drink from it. Well, they decided to take the initiative. It seems that Im-chan overheard one of our conversations, Minato commented, a little embarrassed. Ha 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 ha, I wouldn't have expected less from Karen. She is an expert in seduction, stealth and tracking, Jiraiya said, laughing. And perverted like her father. That's something you inherited from him, Kusina commented with intentions to annoy Minato. Hey, I'm not a pervert, just a fan of female beauty, Minato replied. Besides, if we're talking about inherited traits, Tayuya is the one who has the most traits of yours, Minato said, laughing a little. What did you mean by that? I'm not a pervert, said Kusina, a little annoyed by her husband's comment. Perverted, no, but one could say that both angry ones are to be feared, Minato replied, making Kusina turn completely red with shame. Tayuya, wait, my ribs are going to break. Naruto shouted in despair, while Minato smiled, because those screams made him right. That doesn't prove anything. Tayuya shouted very nervously, while both men who knew her perfectly just laughed. Wait, Tayuya, the key breaks souls at home. No. Naruto screamed in terror when his sister had caught up with him. Beg or Toto no Kao. Tayuya shouted so that it could only be heard as something broke, and then the adults looked at Naruto, who fell from the ceiling on his back, while what seemed to be his soul came out of his mouth. Oops, I think I overdid it a little bit, said the girl, looking at how she left her brother. Were you saying? Minato asked with a smile. I don't want any comment on it. The redhead exclaimed with a slight blush on her face as she crossed her arms, then got up from the sofa and walked towards her son. Naruto's room 18. Naruto was lying on the bed while Tayuya, Karen and Kusina were in charge of healing his wounds. It should be said that the poor man suffered only a few scratches from the tree branches, bruises from his sister's fists. And his chest thundered a little every time he stretched out. Look how you left him, poor Naruken. Don't worry, your beloved Nechan is going to take care of you, Karen said, taking Naruto's head, as she sank it into her chest. Grr, Tayuya growled as a huge vein appeared on his forehead. Stop doing that with Naruto. Tayuya shouted, pulling Naruto against her. You spend it hoarding the nymphomaniac pigs. Tayuya shouted. What? Karen asked in shock. I can't have him against my chest, and you can. Karen questioned, pointing to Tayuya's actions. Whatever it takes, Naruto-kun is mine, Tayuya roared, challenging Karen. What do you mean yours? Karen shouted, if I remember better, you were the one who didn't have the intentions of wanting to be Naruto-kun's girlfriend. Karen attacked. But I changed my mind, and decided that now I do want to be his in every way, Tayuya replied. Naruto-kun will accept me first. Karen screamed, snatching Naruto away. Give it back to me before I put all the dildos in your room, in every cavity, Tayuya threatened, pulling Naruto. While Karen was determined not to lose. I don't care, when I did it was fun, Karen replied, making strength, and being willing not to back down. Girls, I don't think you should do that, Kusina said, looking at Naruto starting to get really irritated. But the girls just ignored their mother. That's enough. The blonde man shouted, breaking away from the grip of both of them, and then looked at them very annoyed. I'm not the Selpa bear they're going to fight over, the boy said, getting out of his bed. Naruto-kun, wait, both of them shouted, but the blonde simply ignored them and stormed out of his room, slamming the door. Look what you did, Karen accused. What I did? You are the only one to blame in this, Tayuya said, looking at his sister. Enough, said Kusina, making her daughters look at him. They're both guilty. Instead of fighting over Naruto-chan, they could have worked together, but now with that fight, they only managed to make him angry. I just hope that the progress they had today with him does not make him question whether he should give them a chance or not. Kusina mentioned, leaving her son's room, leaving the two younger redheads in shock. Silence took over both of them. They were not going to stoop down and ask for forgiveness first than the other. That was not good for her image at all, but her mother's words tormented her mind. And if Naruto decided that it was not convenient to give them their chance, they both felt a twinge. At the heart of just thinking that Naruto would stop loving them, they slowly looked at each other, and with a lot of work I'm sorry, they apologized to each other, but with averted eyes. I think Okazen is right, Karen mentioned, seeing her sister. If we want Naruto-kun, we should work together. To make him happy after all, the main plan was to do it together, Kari mentioned, looking at her sister. What do you have in mind? Tayuya asked, averting his gaze as he sat on his brother's bed. Well, first of all, we will have to apologize to him. The rest will surely come out according to the situation, he said. Karen. Well, then let's go, Tayuya said, getting to his feet, while Karen nodded and followed her, but when they got to Naruto, they hid when they saw that their parents were talking to him. Naruto-kun, they behave like this because they love you, Kusina said, putting her hand on her son's shoulder. But Okazen, his feelings aren't normal, and I think mine aren't either, Naruto replied, a little sad. There are no barriers to love, Naruto, Minato interjected, speaking seriously for the first time. Your sisters talked to us and explained what was going on, Minato said, causing his daughters to be amazed. To see it seriously for the first time, let me tell you, son, that you will have no problems. If you are interested in having a loving relationship with one or both of them, Minato said. Why is that? Naruto asked, very confused. Naruto, you are our heir by being our only male child, and your sisters. They are two very beautiful girls, whom we would not allow a boyfriend, unless he was the right man. For me, you are that man who is better than his little brother, Minato explained with a smile, as the girls who were hidden blushed. Your other Santa tells the truth, Naruto-kun, for us you are the right man. That should be the couple of Taiyu-chan and Kareem-chan. After all, you love them very much, and the love between family is one of the most sincere that exists. Kusina said as Naruto tried to analyze his words. Besides, son, it's better that you have your sisters who love you than some girls than the clan council and the council. Civil council would choose you for girlfriends, Minato said, looking up to the sky, while Naruto was curious about those words. What do you mean? The younger blonde asked. You see, son, as we already mentioned, you are our heir, and both you and your sisters have the right to resurface. The Namikaze clan and the Uzumaki, the older blonde said. That means that that group of arrogant wrinkled people is going to forget me to get married. Naruto screamed in hysterics. Unfortunately, if sometimes they are the ones who put your future wife to you, Kusina said, a little sad. Because she knew several cases and hoped that it wouldn't happen to her daughters. Does that mean you guys? Naruto asked, looking at his parents, while they denied with a smile, knowing what the boy was thinking. We got married as a couple, and that's something you need to know, Naruto-kun, the woman said. You see, Naruto, the council can't intervene by putting a wife on you if you already have a girlfriend or fiancé, Minato explained. I understand, the truth is that I love them both very much, but I'm very afraid of hurting them, the blue-eyed young man said. While Tayuya and Karen were amazed. That happens in relationships, honey. But talking always solves problems. Your sisters are mature enough to understand the situation. Kusina said as Naruto looked at him with narrowed eyes. Right now, I almost suffocated to death from a silly fight of the two, the blonde said with narrowed eyes, while Kusina smiled. Nervous. Hey, well, they are a little immature, she fixed her sentence, but what you should know is from us, said Kusina. Girls, I know you've been listening to the talk, come here, Kusina asked, startling the two redheads. Both redheads peeked out and saw that Naruto was looking at them with confusion, because they were both very flushed. Tayuya had her eyes on the floor, and Karen had her glasses fogged up by her own body heat. Naruto-kun, Karen spoke up, raising the completely blushing face that made Naruto blush at the sight of his sister. She looked so cute, the blonde thought without being able to take his eyes off her. I am sorry for the way I treated you. It was not the best way to show you my love, and I would like to make up for my mistake. Karen said very sincerely. Oh, relax, Karen. I know it bothers me, but it's not a big deal. I could never hate them. I love them too much to hurt them. Naruto said with a smile that made Karen a little confused. Me too, Tayuya mentioned very nervously, getting the attention of her family. I want to apologize too, said the girl with pale, reddish hair. It wasn't right to hit you like that, after the nice things you said to me. And I think that if you are willing to reject me, I will accept it, Tayuya said with difficulty. Taein called the blonde, touched by his sister. Hey, if I had to choose again between Hinata or some other girl, I would choose you overall. He mentioned the blonde one, and then came to her ear and whispered to Al. Something that made her blush. Naruto, muttered the girl, looking at her younger brother, while Karen already suspected what the blonde said to Tayuya. Well, since Naruto-kun accepted you, why don't you give each other a kiss? Karen asked in a teasing way as she stretched out, passing her arms behind the back of her neck with intentions of showing her bigger taste. I'm not going to do that in front of you and our parents. Tayuya shouted with his fury-white eyes and huge sharp fangs as a stinging vein appeared on his forehead. So can I do it myself? Karen asked with a mocking smile, making Tayuya have a twitch in his eye. I swear if you do, I will grab Okasan's katana and cut off your breasts, Tayuya threatened, causing Karen to have a strong shiver. When she saw that her charms would disappear out of nowhere. I think I'm starting to miss the kind and polite Tayuya, Karen said, covering her breasts with her arms. You know, Tayu-chan, Kasina spoke, drawing her daughter's attention. A little kiss wouldn't be bad. That would show us that you really have an interest in Naru-chan, Kasina commented. You must be kidding, Tayuya exclaimed in shock. Come on, daughter, it can't be that bad, Minato said with a smile. Me, but at that moment I turned to see her brother, who was just as sorry as she was. I'll pull it only if you agree, said the blonde, avoiding the look with Tayuya. The place became silent, while the pair of brothers slowly turned their gaze to each other. Little by little, they began to get closer. Their eyes closed, and then their lips made contact. Their hearts were beating synchronously, and their faces were adorned with a cute pink. But a baby pulled it out. They opened their eyes and slowly turned to see Minato with a video camera. Kier, how cute, I squealed, Kasina very excited. Now I will be able to catch the first kiss of my babies whenever I want. She said excited, would you mind doing it again, but this time more passionate? The older redhead asked. Otuzan's not gonna fuck that up, shouted the boys, chasing after Minato, who was running away to save the camera. Hey Karen-chan, you're not giving up yet, are you? Kasina asked, looking at her daughter, who denied with a smile. I'm hoping Naruto-kun will notice me like he did Tayuya, Karen said with a smile. I'll tell you a little secret, said Kasina with a smile, to approach Karen, who was amazed at her mother's words. So he does want to? Karen asked incredulously. Yes, replied Kasina with a cute smile. Naruto-kun told us his decision before you guys decided to spy on our conversation, Kasina commented, making Karen smile. You know, your move in the bathroom was very good. Maybe I should use it with your father one day. Kasina said with a smile, making Karen feel nauseous, and put her hands to her mouth to avoid vomiting. Well, I think I better go make dinner, kids. Don't play rough with your Otasanal, and I are going to have fun today, said Kasina with joy, making Naruto and Tayuya break in their tracks to then be invaded by nothing holy images of his parents and their fun. Both turned green and ran to the bushes, where they started vomiting, which Minato took advantage of to run away with the camera. The night went by normally. Our friends, the Namikaze Uzumaki, had already had lunch, and then spent a quiet evening where the three youngest members of the family kept avoiding each other's eyes a little. The night came, and everyone was ready to sleep, but their parents quickly stopped their three children. Naruto, Kasina spoke, making her son stop. Son, don't you think the most correct thing right now is for you to say goodbye to your sisters with a kiss? Kasina asked with a smile. Huh? He reacted surprised and with a red face, as did Tayuya and Karen. who were at a loss when imagining their younger brother's lips on hers. Kasina, come on. His space. Naruto has already accepted Tayuya and Mekan into his life, and I think it's best that little by little. They are the ones who have the initiative, Minato commented, making Kasina sigh with a somewhat childish grimace. Dear, I know that. You're as excited as I am, but it's better to leave them alone. At Minato's response, both girls looked at each other a little disappointed by the idea. That was seen by Naruto getting him to swallow dry to approach both and kiss their cheek, leaving them a little surprised and disappointed because they were waiting for the kiss to their lips. Good evening, said the younger blonde in entering his room. Girls, give him time. It was a very loaded day for him to find out about your feelings, and for him to accept his own feelings for you. Minato advised his daughters, who simply nodded. The days passed slowly, and Naruto seemed a little distant from everyone. The boy interacted with his family, but it was very little because he was only dedicated to helping them with household chores. His sisters wanted to do something, but whenever they tried, Minato and Kasina shook their heads because it was true. The boy had to assimilate the idea of loving them as he had told his parents. Naruto's room. It's been 4 days since I accepted Taian as a couple, but I don't know what I should tell her. She is Minasan, and I get quite nervous when I am in front of her, said the blonde lying on his bed. While looking at the ceiling of his room, the blonde remained silent and turned around, looking at a photograph where Karen and Tayuya appeared hugging him on his 7th birthday. And another photo where Tayuya was angry, while her mother scolded her for having sunk her face to Naruto in the cake, while Karen ran her tongue over one of her brother's cheeks. The blonde Uzumaki smiled as he remembered such good times with his sisters. I think, the blonde mentioned remembering the kisses with Hinata, the accidental kiss on the lips he had with Sakura. And the kisses with his sisters. I have been very unfair to them. After all, I love them, and they love me, because it's so difficult. The blonde man shouted, scratching his head in frustration. Nothing has changed, he heard a voice behind his back. Naruto searched for the origin of that voice, but there was no one. He was completely alone in his room. Who's there? Asked the blonde, looking for the voice. Around here, I hear again the voice that for some reason became very familiar. Naruto searched for the voice, but only ended up finding himself in front of his favorite singer Zulbit poster of Shaman King's Yo. You took a while, son, the man on the poster spoke. Naruto shouted in fear. How is it possible that you are talking to me? Shouted the blonde. Hey, little friend, this is a dream, just let yourself go, said the man with afro hair and colored skin, who was wearing a white jacket and pants of the same color. This place is uncomfortable, said the man coming out of the poster, and then stretching a little, like this is much better. But how? The blonde man said in amazement. I told you, Naruto, we are in your dream, otherwise I would still make that poster on your wall, Bob said with a friendly smile. Yes, you're right, the blonde replied. It seems that your situation is lighter than a few days ago, the man commented. What would you do in my place? Naruto asked, looking at the man. Well, if my duty was to help the Uzumaki clan, I would, but that's not my case. Tell me, Naruto, do you love your sisters? Sulbabo asked, looking at the boy. Yes, but I'm afraid that if I do something clumsy they'll hate me, the blonde said. Hey, problems are solved by talking, besides your sisters are always going to love you most of all. The family is always there to support each other, don't forget Naruto, the man said, placing his hand on the boy's shoulders. But, he mentioned Naruto. Hey, believe me, you worry too much. Also, stop thinking with your head, kid, the man said with a friendly smile as he gave Naruto light blows. These problems will never be solved like this. Think with your feelings, your heart is the one who should make this decision. It is very well known that thinking many things at the same time is. It's very tired, now wake up and go to your sisters, they need you, Bob said, fading away. At that moment, Naruto woke up calmly and with a smile, because it was time to be a man. He turned his face to the right and confirmed that the sun was about to set. Then he turned his face to his wall, and there was his Zulbo poster, just as he remembered it. Naruto smiled when he saw him and walked to the door, but first he said a few words. Thank you, old man, the blonde man thanked, leaving his room. Slowly the blonde walked to one of the rooms, the closest was that of his sister Karen. He knocked on the door, but unfortunately no one was there. The boy, a little disappointed, decided to go look for Tayuya, but something similar happened. Her older sister wasn't there either. That's when he heard several laughs in the room. The young Namikaze, very curious, walked in the direction of that room, and what he looks at left him frozen. "Naruto, you're already down," Kushina said smiling. "But don't be rude, son, say hello to our new family," Minato said, pointing to two boys who were sitting next to their sisters. "Fuck me," the blonde said in shock, looking at the two boys, but mostly at Sasuke. "It's wait, you're dead," Naruto shouted, pointing at the swarthy Uchiha, who was smiling with great arrogance as he hugged Karen. Do you think a pathetic cow like you is going to kill me?" "Don't make me laugh," Sasuke replied arrogantly. "Naruto, you should stop being so immature thinking that you can defeat my fiancé," Karen said, hugging Sasuke. "Wait," Naruto screamed in shock at the shocking news. "That's right, Baka, because you couldn't make up your mind, the council committed us to someone who, if he pays attention to us, is not like you, who was locked up crying about the cheating of Sakura and Gina's lesbians." Tayuya answered bluntly. "But I was coming to," said the blonde, very confused. "To tell us that you love us." Tayuya asked. "It's too late for that, Ototo," the red-haired girl replied spitefully. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but you didn't want to and Otozan didn't have a choice, although this doesn't seem to me. It seems so bad," Karen said matter-of-factly. "Guys, why don't you give me and the camera a kiss," said Kushina, taking out a camera. "Of course, Okazan," Karen said, slowly approaching Sasuke as the dark-haired man approached her with intentions of kissing her. "I guess so," said Tayuya and Mitondo to his sister. "No," Naruto shouted as he felt his heart breaking now for the most special girls in his life. At that moment, the boy woke up sweating and breathing heavily, to then be hugged by someone who was with him. "Naru-chan, are you okay?" asked her very worried mother, who seemed to have been awake. "What happened? Where are they?" Naruto asked, very upset, looking for Neji and Sasuke. "Who?" Minato asked, opening the door. "The Tem is alive, and he was going to marry Karini, and Neji was going to marry Taion," the blonde replied, looking for Sasuke and the Hyuga. "Don't worry, Naruto-kun, I rejected him," said a voice behind his back that made Naruto turn around quickly. "Karen mentioned the blonde, looking at his sister in pajamas while smiling at him. "But then said the blonde, very confused as he took himself. "The head? Naruto-san, you suffered a stress blackout, you've been unconscious for a whole day," Minato commented, approaching his sapling, as he placed one of his hands on his son's shoulder. "It was just a nightmare, calm down," Tayuya mentioned, sitting next to him, trying to calm the blonde. "But this, it became so real," said the young blue Oya, still very shocked. "Kasan, I think we will handle the situation. You have been here taking care of him since morning," Karen mentioned to her mother. "Are you sure?" Kushina asked her daughters. "Yes, stay calm," replied the girl with glasses. "Fine, then rest up, girls, and take care of Naru-chan," Kushina requested, walking in the direction of the door. "Good night, girls, Naruto, get some rest," Minato said, leaving his children alone. Naruto had his head down, to then feel how his sisters were sitting next to him with a worried face. "Karen, Taion," spoke the blonde, calling the attention of these, "forgive me. Hey, it was our fault too. We told you how we felt the same day. It was normal for you to faint from so much stress," Karen said. "That he had more medical knowledge. You know, even when that happened, I'm happy," the blonde said. "How can you be happy, you big cow?" Tayuya shouted, very angry. "Do you know how worried she was about you?" roared her sister with small tears that she did not want to let out of her eyes. While Karen just looked down, because it was true, Naruto had scared them, and when Tsunade checked it, she said that it was just a mental fatigue. "Because if I hadn't lived those dreams, I wouldn't be able to do this," said the blonde, kissing Tayuya, who went blank when he felt how his brother was kissing her, but this time it was different. He didn't know what it was, but he liked it. Once he was separated from his sister, the blonde guy approached Karen and kissed her, making her feel the same as Tayuya. The girls were completely red with grief, and once Naruto separated from them, he smiled at them. "I love them, and they are the most important thing to me. I would like to know if you want to go ahead with that," said the blue Oya with some pity. Both girls were shocked. Perhaps his dreams were so graphic that they made him understand his own feelings. But then they remembered that Naruto said that the two of them were going to get married in one of his dreams. It was when that mocking smile appeared on their faces. The girls put Naruto to bed while Tayuya leaned his head on his left pectoral, while Karen leaned her head on her right shoulder. So Ototo Novaka got jealous, said Tayuya, playing with one of his fingers while making little circles on his brother's chest, causing the boy to be sorry to be discovered. You know, I thought Sasuke was cute once, Karen said, making Naruto's eyes go white from the surprise. The little fool had his own thing. I would have liked it if it wasn't because he was so arrogant and vindictive. Tayuya commented as a stinging vein appeared on Naruto's forehead, but the truth is, I like blonde cows better, said the girl with a naughty smile. Especially when they have blue eyes and cute marks on their cheeks, Karen said, gently kissing each of the marks on Naruto's right cheek. Both were so focused on making their brother feel good that they never expected to feel the boy's hands caressing their buttocks. Both of them let out a stifled scream, and then saw Naruto smile a little when he saw them completely red. They look very pretty like that, the blonde commented, making them smile, laughing at both of them, while this one kept caressing them. But look who decided to go out and play, Karen commented with a perverted smile, seeing so much initiative in Naruto. I just wanted some attention, and I also wanted to ask you a question. Would you like to sleep with me? Naruto asked. I thought you wouldn't ask me, Karen said, snuggling into Naruto. Well, if we're going to take care of you, I don't think it's a bad idea for us to sleep with you, Tayuya replied, imitating her younger sister, while Naruto hugged them both. Thank you, Taiuchin Karen-chan, the blonde man said with his eyes closed. Thanks to your Naruto-kun, they said at the same time, while the two of them placed a kiss on the boy's lips at the same time. With this action, the boys proceeded to close their eyes and let themselves be carried away by Morpheus, managing to sleep for the first time, completely happy and without worries. Several days later, Minato and Kasina noticed that their children's relationship was getting better and better. The only thing I was disappointed about was that Tayuya had returned to being the same as before. She dressed more feminine, but in her own style, one that made Naruto blush, and like weed never dies, she kept calling him Aroto Usano, his favorite Tsunade Novaka. Regarding Karen, she always sneaked into Naruto's room whenever she could and was not discovered by Tayuya, who always said that it was 2 o'clock or no one slept with Naruto, but to tell the truth, she had also been surprised rarely when she wanted to spend time alone with him. Little blonde boy, meanwhile Naruto didn't mind being with his sisters in such situations at all. Naruto and his sisters went out whenever they had the opportunity, because even if they were quiet times, they were still shinobi who had to fulfill their duty to perform missions. Namikaze Uzumaki Family House, October 8, 7:43 p.m. I am so glad to see such happiness in our children, Minikin, said Kasino while she and her husband were enjoying a movie. Yes, I also like to see the great change of Taiuchin to be in contact with Naruto. Sometimes it's hard for me to believe that my little violet daughter is that quiet girl we are looking at, Minato said, looking at sitting with his back leaning on the wall, while Tayuya was leaning his back on his brother's chest. At that precise moment, someone knocked on the door of the residence, giving slight knocks, and Karen went to answer. Well, at the moment she was heading to the kitchen for a glass of water. Once he opened the door, he looked at Sakura and Hinata. The girls had huge dark circles, they looked very misaligned, and their clothes were a mess. It's 23 days until the Aeon. I think they got ahead of themselves, but I'll give them something special for dressing up as witches, Karen said with a mocking smile. Karen-san, please, Sakura asked, drawing the redhead's attention. What's the matter, Sakura-chan? He asked her without any interest. I know we did wrong for not telling Naruto our feelings, but we want to make things right with him, he asked for Sakura. Redhead peeked in her brother's direction and could see that Tayuya was leaning on him. It seems to me that he is a little busy, Karen said with a little jealousy. Please, Karen-san, we need to see him, Hinata said desperately. I would like to, but I don't think they're ready to see what happens with Naruto, Karen replied, trying to stop them from getting hurt more than they looked at each other. Karen-san, please, Sakura asked with moistened eyes. Karen sighed in defeat and looked at them. They really wanted to talk to Naruto, but she knew they wouldn't be able to do anything. Nothing if Tayuya looked at them there. I am not responsible if they look at something that they shouldn't, and that probably leaves them hurt, and please avoid Tayuya from seeing them, Karen asked while both girls nodded with happiness, because after several days they could talk to Naruto. To tell him something they had the need to tell him. The girls walked following Karen, and she indicated that the blonde was near the dojo, enjoying the tranquility there. Various images appeared in the girls' heads, such as Naruto sweating and strengthening his muscles. That made them turn red, and they expected to see him quickly, but just when they arrived. Naruto-kun, the girls listened, and then watched Tayuya reload in Naruto. She seemed very happy as she caressed one of Naruto's cheeks, then slowly approached and kissed him on the lips. Them? They are leaving, Sakura said, covering her mouth while crying. They were coming down through his eyes. Kissing. Karen asked with irony. If he does that, it's normal when a guy and a girl love each other, Karen replied without importance. Hey, but they are brothers. That's not right, she exclaimed, and kills that she did not accept such a relationship between her ex-boyfriend and Tayuya. Well, from what I understand, it seems that Naru-chan and Taein had feelings for each other. And my parents authorized the two of them to have a loving relationship, Karen revealed. Also, if Nizan and Naru-chan get married, a Namikaze Uzumaki baby will be born, and it's likely. That's what the council wants, Karen explained. Getting married? It's just that your whole family lost their minds. They can't get married. The desperate Yuga shouted. She really wanted to get her Naruto-kun back. At such a scream, Naruto and Tayuya left their world, because Naruto cut off the kiss. With the redhead, since I knew that voice perfectly. What's the matter, Ototoken? Tayuya asked, a little confused, because the blonde cut the kiss out of nowhere. Let go of my boyfriend, Slippery. She screamed, and Nata, who interrupted the beautiful moment of the couple, while Sakura tried to stop her, she did not allow. Let a good girl like you marry Naruto-kun. I don't care if the Hokage approves of their relationship, I'm opposed to them getting married. The Yuga exclaimed angrily. Or Totoken, why don't you throw some food at the neighbors to calm down? Tayuya asked, curling up in Naruto. Who are you calling, you incest freak? The only hateful one is you being kissed by your own brother. He roared and kills with his Yakugan activated. The only hateful one here is you, all you do is make out with the Patako and me, said the redhead with sarcasm. Who decided to settle better on Naruto's chest. That he could not talk about the impression when he saw his ex-girlfriend arguing with her sister and fiancé. First of all, don't bring Sakura-chan into this, now explain to me why they are getting married. He demanded to know the Yuga. That's nice, defend that one, and about getting married, or Totoken will decide the date, right, Baka? The girl asked with a smile. Naruto, come, tell me it's not true, tell me you won't marry your own sister, she mentioned, and Mata very upset. What's going on here? Asked a female voice that startled everyone. What surprise and Nachin is something offered to you? Kusina asked looking at the Yuka. Kusina-sama, tell me that you are not supporting this nonsense, said Inata looking at the redhead who looked confused. What are you talking about? Kusina asked him, without understanding the eyeball that was getting more and more desperate. Of the incestuous relationship that is being carried under her nose, Inata shouted, losing her patience. Ah, that, the older Uzumaki replied, understanding everything. If that, cried Inata, hoping that Kusina would burst out and forbid such affections to her children. Well, I don't see anything wrong with Taiyu-chan, Kareem-chan and Naru-chan love each other madly. I couldn't stop them from being together. Kusina said, surprising Inata and Sakura. Ka Karen-san? They asked in shock. Oops, I forgot to mention it, said the redhead with glasses, who approached Naruto, and then kissed him in front of the girls and Tayuya. Hey, don't hog everything, you already had your time with him, Tayuya said, annoyed with Karen. What? You joined in this madness? Inata shouted that she was already on the verge of losing her sanity, that her Naruto's own mother supports the relationship. But Kusina-sama, they are brothers, that's not right, Sakura said, joining the conversation. What did the girls come for? Kusina asked, looking at the newcomers. Well, we really want to apologize to Naruto-kun, Sakura said, looking at her friend, who was just keeping serious about the situation. But the apology will be only for him, not with his gorillas, Inata said, referring to his sisters. Let's see, little princess, you want a mouth without teeth, said the girl, standing up, but was stopped by Naruto, who denied. I'll listen to you, said the blonde, making Sakura and Nata smile. Karen-chan, Taiyu-chan, or Kazan. Can you leave us alone please, asked Naruto. No, I refuse to leave you with these Slippery, Whatever they have to say, let them say it in front of everyone, Tayuya added protectively. Hey, I'll be fine, said the blonde, giving Tayuya a small kiss on the lips, which relaxed her a little. I have to do this alone, Naruto mentioned with a calm tone. Come on, Tayuchin, there is a very important issue we have to deal with, Kasina said, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Okay, but let's be clear, bitches, if they touch him, your head will be on his ass, Tayuya threatened, pointing at Hinata's head, making Sakura tense up when imagining such a scene, although Hinata seemed not to be bothered so much, because she had only a little blush on her cheeks. Once the redheads almost took Tayuya with them, the place fell silent, and Naruto decided to return to the floor and sit down to be more comfortable at the moment when he was leaning on the wall. His guests couldn't help but look at him closely as a blush appeared on their faces. So what's going on? Naruto asked, raising his face and looking at his friend. Naruto, you see, I'm really sorry, Sakura said, lowering her face. Unknowingly, every time I helped you with tips to make Inachin happy, Sakura said, being interrupted by Hinata. What we want to say is that we really need you, Naruto. Kun, please come to your senses, Hinata asked, shedding tears. Your sisters are not the right girls, I still love you, Hinata said, trying to kiss him. But Naruto stopped her on the spot by putting his hand before it reached his labios. I'm sorry, Hinata, but no, the blonde replied. Why is that? Why don't you want to come back? Sakura-chan could be with us, it would be just the three of us like before. We decided to share you, Hinata clarified. I only feel affection for you, but not love, excuse me, but my happiness is now with Karen-chan and Tayuchin, Naruto said calmly. Stop lying, Hinata asked, taking him by the shoulders. I'm sure if I kiss you, you'll kiss me back like before, said Hinata, who joined her lips to Naruto's, who just stood still and didn't make the attempt. By following him, I simply avoid giving Hinata's tongue a pass. Sakura was perplexed by Hinata's desperation, but she just looked away with a little pain when she saw how her girlfriend was getting in order to get Naruto back. Hinata broke off and had teary eyes, while Naruto just kept that serious and cold look on his face. No, please, you have to return it. You love me, said Hinata, crying. I told you I don't love you anymore, Hinata. Now please apologize to Sakura, it's obvious to see you kissing me, pity, Naruto said seriously as he stood up. Sakura-chan, Hinata mentioned, looking at the redhead shedding tears. It seems that I am not enough for you, you are an egoist. Sakura cried out with her eyes shedding tears. But it's that I want, said Hinata, realizing her words. Excado. It's always I want, we always do what Hinata wants. That's the same reason we hurt Naruto, because you love me, he said, emphasizing the action. Sakura-chan, Hinata said. I'm really sorry, Naruto. With those words, the girl left Naruto's house completely shattered. Are you going to stay there? Naruto asked, looking at the Yuga. I lost her, the Yuga muttered in complete disbelief. Sakura-chan, she mentioned, and Mata falling to his knees as small tears fell on the wood of the floor. What dilemma? Tell me, what are you going to do? Naruto asked, sitting next to him. She hates me now, but I want you and me, the girl mentioned incredulously. Incoherent. Yanta, I can easily see that Sakura loves you, and from now on I repeat, there will be no us, so I recommend that you retire. And if you say you love Sakura the way you love her, go find her and apologize to her, Naruto said, standing up as he picked up the girl, who stood up and walked out of the house. The blonde's house, as if it were some kind of zombie. Naruto walked heavily. He felt very bad because now he was the one who was watching as the victim's heart broke into thousands of pieces. Slowly he walked to the kitchen,